In the heart of Diobu, one of Port Harcourt's most congested neighborhoods, lived a family of 5 crammed into a single-room apartment with peeling walls and a leaking roof. The youngest of the children, Tamuno Ibifuro, often sat by the window, staring at the world beyond the slums, a world she longed to enter. Her mother, Mama Rose, sold roasted plantain at the roadside from morning until night. Her father, Papa Friday, worked as a night security guard for a construction site. Every kobo they earned went into survival. They had nothing extra, yet they held onto a single hope. Tamuno. She was brilliant, full of dreams, and the only one among the children who finished secondary school. But dreams do not pay school fees. There was no money for university. Tamuno tried to find work, anything to lift the burden off her parents. Eventually, through a neighbor's connection, she got a job as a cleaner in the mansion of Chief Osaro Edibiri, one of the richest men in the city. When Tamuno stepped into the Rumomasi estate mansion for the first time, it felt like entering a different world. Marbled floors, sparkling chandeliers, velvet drapes, and a fountain in the front yard that spilled like poetry. It was nothing like the rusted zinc roofs of Diobu. It was paradise. Chief Osaro wasn't around much. He traveled for business frequently and was rarely seen at home. His wife, Madame Onome, was regal, beautiful in an intimidating way. She didn't speak much to the staff, always heading out for one charity event or the other. Her presence felt like perfume, elegant but distant. Tamuno cleaned, scrubbed, and polished in silence. But as the days turned into weeks, she couldn't stop the slow burn of envy. She watched chefs prepare meals she had only seen on TV. She folded clothes that cost more than her family's rent for an entire year. And she listened from behind doors as rich visitors laughed about offshore accounts and yacht parties. Her heart ached not just for herself, but for Mama Rose, who still slept on a mat, and for Papa Friday, whose hands had turned calloused from years of guard work. How could some people have so much and others so little? Still, Tamuno remained quiet. She did her job. She came early, stayed late. Her parents called her their pride, but pride could not change reality. Until one day, Tamuno overheard the other maids gossiping. Chief Osaro had come home late the night before with another woman, not Madame Onome. "Third one this month," one cook whispered. "He doesn't even hide it again," another laughed. Tamuno felt a strange unease. How could a man with such wealth, such a wife, live with such recklessness? And why did the world let him? That evening, as she walked home under the dim streetlights of Diobu, the words echoed in her mind. He doesn't even hide it again. That night, a seed was planted. The next morning, Tamuno returned to the mansion, trying to quiet her thoughts. But the more she wiped counters and mopped marbled floors, the more her eyes noticed things she had ignored before, evidence of excess, carelessness, and arrogance. On the 3rd floor where Chief Osaro's private bedroom stood, Tamuno entered to clean as usual. The chief was out of town again, and Madame Onome had flown to Abuja for a week-long charity seminar. As she changed the bed sheets and sprayed linen mist, something on the floor near the side drawer caught her eye. It was a used condom, barely hidden beneath a discarded luxury towel. Tamuno froze. Her heart pounded. Slowly, she reached for it, wrapped it in tissue, and dropped it into the wastebasket. But her hands trembled. Her thoughts refused to let go. A dangerous idea whispered through her mind. "You're smart, Tamuno. Desperate times need bold actions." That evening, she couldn't sleep. She stared at the ceiling fan spinning above her head, her father coughing in the corner, her mother snoring softly on a mat, the heat unbearable. This isn't life, she thought. This is survival on expired hope. She remembered the fertility clinic in Alekahia that one of the other maids had once mentioned, a discreet place where rich women went to plan their pregnancies quietly. Dr. Ibikami, the owner, was rumored to help special cases as long as you had money or something else to offer. The next day, Tamuno called in sick and visited the clinic. She waited in a small, air-conditioned room that smelled of antiseptic and lavender. Dr. Ibikami was younger than she expected, wearing a crisp shirt and gold-rimmed glasses. He listened to her story without flinching. "You want me to do what with a used condom?" he asked, raising an eyebrow. Tamuno explained everything. Her tone was even. Her face was calm, but her eyes revealed the fire within. "I don't want money from you. Just help me. I have the specimen." The doctor leaned back in his chair, studying her. "It's risky," he finally said, "and unusual." "I have nothing to lose," Tamuno replied. After a long silence, Dr. Ibikame smiled not kindly, but with quiet calculation. "Fine," he said, "but there's a cost." Tamuno's heart dropped. "How much?" "I don't want your money," he said. "You'll sleep with me, once, then we'll do the insemination. After that, I'll forget your name." Tamuno stood up, heart pounding. Her pride screamed, her shame trembled, but her desperation spoke louder than both. For Mama, for Papa, for a better life. Later that evening, under flickering fluorescent lights, the deed was done. The procedure followed immediately. She walked out of the clinic into the humid Port Harcourt night, her soul fractured, but her plan in motion. 3 weeks later, Tamuno stood in front of the mirror in the shared compound bathroom, holding a pregnancy test stick. The two red lines stared back at her. She was pregnant. She collapsed onto the bench outside, covering her face with both hands. Joy, terror, guilt, hope. They all rushed through her at once. She had crossed a line. Now there was no going back. When Tamuno finally told her parents about the pregnancy, the room went still. Mama Rose was the first to speak. Her voice cracked as she whispered, "Who is the father, Tamuno?" Tamuno hesitated before answering. "Chief Osaro." Papa Friday exploded. "That man you clean for? Did he touch you? Did he force you?" She shook her head. "He didn't touch me. Not directly." Her voice was barely above a whisper. "I used one of his condoms. I got help. From a doctor." The silence that followed was heavier than 1,000 words. Her mother stared at her as if seeing her for the first time. Her father walked out of the room without another word. The next morning, Papa Friday didn't look Tamuno in the eye. Mama Rose sat beside her daughter and held her hand. "It's not right. It's not God's way. But this world has never been fair to us," she said. "If this child gives us a chance to breathe, to eat well, to live like people, then maybe it's a sin worth carrying." Tamuno nodded slowly. She was both relieved and ashamed. By the 5th month, Tamuno had quit her cleaning job. Chief Osaro, now back in town, didn't even seem to notice. He had other girls, other distractions. Tamuno's phone number was long deleted from mansion records. She knew it was time to make the next move. When the twins were born, 2 strong, crying baby boys with light skin and Osaro's pointed ears, her parents wept. Not just because of the miracle of life, but because this was their second chance. Mama Rose, holding one of the babies close, murmured, "They look just like him." Tamuno nodded. "He'll deny it, but he'll know." 2 weeks later, wearing her only decent dress, Mama Rose went to Chief Osaro's mansion. When the gates opened, she introduced herself to the guard, her voice steady. "I need to speak with the chief. It's urgent. It's about Tamuno and his sons." She was eventually allowed in. Chief Osaro met her in his lush living room, sipping fresh palm wine, phone in hand. He looked up, confused. "Madam, who are you again?" "I'm Tamuno's mother," she said. "Your former cleaner. She's given birth. Twin boys." Osaro blinked. "Excuse me?" "They're yours, sir," she said. "Tamuno used a condom from your bedroom. With help, she's pregnant. You're the father." The silence that followed was volcanic. Osaro burst into laughter. "Are you people mad? Did you walk into the wrong house? Is your daughter a witch or a miracle worker?" His tone changed. "Get out, before I call the police." Mama Rose stood frozen for a second. She had rehearsed this moment, but nothing prepared her for the humiliation. She turned slowly and walked out, past the guards, past the compound's beauty, back into the harsh, choking air of Diobu. At home, she told Tamuno everything. Her daughter clenched her jaw, eyes burning with tears. "Then I'll go myself." 3 days later, under a heavy Port Harcourt rain, Tamuno stood outside the grand black gates of Chief Osaro's mansion, her newborn twins wrapped in thick Ankara cloth, one on each arm. She was tired, mentally, physically. But this was the moment. She buzzed the gate intercom. "I'm Tamuno Ibifuro. I used to work here. Please tell Chief Osaro I need to speak to him." The guards hesitated, but curiosity got the better of them. Minutes later, the chief himself appeared at the doorway, surprised, annoyed, and intrigued all at once. Tamuno stepped in, her feet wet from the storm, her voice firm despite the tremble in her bones. "Chief, these are your sons." Osaro eyed her with disbelief and a sneer. "What is this? A scam?" Tamuno took a deep breath. "I used your discarded condom. I went to a doctor. I didn't do this for fame or fun. I did it because I had nothing left. I wanted a better life for my family. For these boys." Osaro's face turned stone cold. "So you tricked me? Violated my privacy and planted children on me? I didn't steal your money. I didn't lie about the paternity. I'm here, standing in your house, telling you the truth so you'll do the right thing." He stood up sharply, knocking over a glass on the table. "Get out. You will hear from my lawyers." Tamuno's eyes stung with tears, but she didn't break. "I'll take it to court. DNA doesn't lie." Osaro's laugh was bitter. "Even if it's true, do you think I'll take responsibility for children I didn't consent to create? You played a dirty game, and now you want clean rewards?" Tamuno stepped back slowly, the twins fussing in her arms. "Then we'll let the courts decide." She left the mansion drenched not from the rain, but from the storm inside her. Back in the estate, as Madame Onome returned from Abuja, she noticed the tension in the house immediately. Osaro was agitated, pacing. The staff was too quiet. "Who came here?" she asked the driver. "A woman, madam, one of the old cleaners. She came with babies." "Babies?" The rumor had already reached the neighborhood Osaro had twins with a former maid. Later that night, as she and Osaro sat in the dining room, she asked him directly, "Is it true?" Osaro sighed. "She's crazy. She claims she got pregnant with a used condom. Wants money now, threatening court." Onome stared at him. "Are you serious? That's your defense? You think I slept with her?" he barked. "I think," she said coolly, "that you're reckless. You've been careless for years. One day it had to catch up." Without another word, she left the table. That night, Onome couldn't sleep. She tossed and turned, anger clawing at her. Her life was a polished lie, charity dinners, social media posts, elegant gowns all covering the rot beneath. And now a maid's child or children threatened to pull it all apart. She made a decision. She would handle it herself. The next morning, Madame Onome rose early, dressed in a dark blue wrapper and black net veil, not for mourning, but for war. She called Baba Tega, the estate's oldest security officer. "I need the address of that girl who came here yesterday with those babies." "Ah, madam, I don't lie to me, Baba Tega. I know you know. You've worked here for years. Don't force me to call someone else." Baba Tega sighed and scribbled the address on a small paper. It was in Diobu, the ghetto side. By 11 a.m., Madame Onome was standing at the entrance of a rusty, weather-worn building. The neighborhood smelled of wood smoke, sweat, and wet soil. She stood out like a polished diamond in a sea of dust. She climbed the stairs and knocked once. Tamuno, carrying one of the twins on her back, opened the door shocked. Madame Onome didn't wait for an invitation. She walked in, glanced around the dim, cramped room, and turned to face her. "You're proud of yourself, aren't you?" she began, her voice cold. "You think this is your ticket out of poverty?" "I didn't plan to trap him," Tamuno said. "I only wanted him to take responsibility for his children." Madame Onome laughed bitterly. "Children? These are bastards born from filth and desperation. They will never belong to us, ever." Tamuno's jaw tightened. "They are innocent. You're angry at me, but don't punish them." Onome's eyes narrowed. "You are the filth that crawled from under our table and dared to eat from our plate. Stay away from my husband. Stay away from my family. If you ever show your face near us again, you'll regret it. And with that, she walked out, her expensive perfume lingering in the air long after she slammed the door shut. Tamuno sat down slowly, holding her son tightly. Her hands trembled, but her eyes were steady. You can insult me, she thought, but not my children. Never my children. That same night, Onome returned home to find Osaru drinking alone in the lounge. She dropped her handbag and asked flatly, "Why didn't you tell me the full story?" "What are you talking about?" he muttered. "You knew she was telling the truth. You know those boys are yours." Osaru groaned. "You went to see her?" "I did, because you're too much of a coward to clean your own mess." They argued loudly, bitterly. Years of suppressed resentment burst like a dam. Onome blamed him for their childless marriage, for his endless affairs, for dragging their name through the mud. Osaru accused her of being cold, emotionally unavailable, more focused on image than intimacy. "You think I cheated because I enjoy it?" he snapped. "You've been absent for years. You think your penis is my punishment?" She shot back. "Maybe if you had discipline, we wouldn't be here." The house vibrated with their voices. Then silence. Both exhausted, both broken. Onome walked out of the room and slammed the door to their bedroom. Meanwhile, in Diobu, Tamuno rocked her sons to sleep, tears streaking down her cheeks. The confrontation had rattled her, but it had also made something clear. She would not back down. Not for Osaru, not for Onome, not for anyone. Tomorrow she would see a lawyer. The lawyer Tamuno met was a slim, sharp-tongued woman named Barrister Mabel Oji. Her office was tucked behind a dry cleaning shop in Garrison, but her mind was sharper than any suit in the big firms on Aba Road. After hearing Tamuno's story, Barrister Mabel nodded slowly. "You have no signed agreement, no affair to prove, no consent. But if the DNA says he's the father, we have a case. The law doesn't recognize how a pregnancy happens, only if the child is his." Tamuno swallowed. "What are my chances?" Mabel smiled. "With the right evidence and the right judge, you'll walk out a rich woman." Chief Osaru was furious when the court summons arrived. He called his lawyer immediately. "This is madness. She's taking me to court? After that nonsense?" But his lawyer warned him. "Chief, if DNA confirms paternity, the law won't be on your side." And so the case moved forward at Port Harcourt Family Court, under the authority of Judge Sotuniamidi. Behind closed doors, Dr. Abekimi reappeared uninvited. He met Tamuno at a quiet pepper soup joint in Rumola. "I heard about the case," he said, eyes cold. "You should have told me. I deserve something." Tamuno kept her face blank. "You already got what you wanted." The doctor leaned in. "Maybe I should go to the court myself and tell them the real story, that I might be the father." Tamuno's heart stopped. "What do you want?" He smiled. "A deal, half of whatever you win, and access to you whenever I want." Her mouth went dry. Her mind screamed. She hated him, but she also knew the DNA had been manipulated. He helped her cheat the system. If he spoke out, everything would collapse. Tamuno nodded slowly. "I'll think about it." The courtroom was filled the day of the hearing. Chief Osaru, wearing a white caftan and sunglasses, sat stiffly beside his legal team. Tamuno, in a borrowed skirt and blouse, sat nervously next to Barrister Mabel, clutching her son's birth certificates. The judge arrived, files opened, the manipulated DNA results presented as authentic were admitted into evidence. No one questioned the source. Judge Sotoni cleared his throat. "Based on the paternity test provided in legal precedents, the court rules that Chief Osaru is the biological father of the twin boys." A gasp ran through the courtroom. "Chief Osaru," the judge continued, "you are hereby ordered to pay 910,000,000 monthly in child support to ensure the children's welfare and cover the damages associated with non-disclosure and neglect." Osaru's face turned pale. He stared at Tamuno, frozen. Tamuno didn't cry. She didn't smile. She just exhaled, long and deep. She had done it. But her victory was fragile. That night, as she lay in her bed in a new apartment off Ada George, her phone rang. It was Dr. Ibikumi. "It's time," he said. "I want my share, or I'll destroy everything." Tamuno stood alone in her spacious new home, a sleek, fully furnished duplex with white-tiled floors and velvet curtains. The twins slept peacefully in their crib. Outside, Port Harcourt's night air was calm, but inside her chest, a storm raged. Dr. Ibikumi's threats haunted her. He had called 3 times that day, each time with more venom. "You think you've won? You forget I know everything. The manipulation, the bribe judge, the condom. It'll take one phone call to ruin you." Tamuno tried to reason with him. "You helped me. You were paid for your role in the procedure. Why come now?" His voice dropped. "Because you promised me more. You said you'd keep your end. You lied. I don't like liars." She hung up, hands shaking. She looked at her sons, both smiling in their sleep innocence she had never known. Something inside her snapped. The next day, Tamuno bought a gun. A small, locally made pistol from a mechanic's cousin in Aleki Beach. She called the doctor and asked to meet. "Let's settle this. You'll get something, but not here. Too many eyes." He agreed. They met that evening at an abandoned boatyard in Ogbunabali, a place where water rusts metal and secrets dissolve like salt. When the doctor arrived, Tamuno was already there, standing beside a worn-out fishing boat. "You brought it?" he asked. Tamuno nodded. "But not the way you think." She pulled the gun from her handbag. Her hands didn't tremble this time. "What?" "Tamuno, wait," he began. Bang! The first shot hit his shoulder. He dropped, screaming. She stood over him, gun shaking now, tears streaking down her face. "You thought I would let you control me forever? That I would let you hurt me, use me, threaten my children?" The second shot never came. Her soul refused to go any further. She turned and ran. A passerby found the doctor an hour later. He was rushed to the hospital, injured but alive, and he talked. Everything spilled out. The fake DNA, the bribe, his threats, his role. The scandal exploded. The police arrested Tamuno in her home 2 days later. Neighbors watched as she was dragged out in handcuffs, hair undone, face swollen with sleeplessness. Chief Osaro heard the news on radio. He froze in his office chair. The headlines were everywhere. Fake paternity test, ex-cleaner arrested in 10M child support scam. The judge was suspended, pending investigation. Dr. Ibikumi, once a quiet predator, was also arrested charged for fraud, bribery, and unethical medical practice. In the middle of it all, Madame Onome stood quietly in front of her bathroom mirror, brushing her long braids. She touched her stomach gently, eyes wet. She was pregnant. 2 months later, Port Harcourt's newspapers had moved on to a new scandal. But behind the headlines, lives were still unraveling and rebuilding. Tamuno sat on the concrete bench inside the women's wing of the River State Correctional Center, her eyes fixed on the sky. Her hair was shorter now, her skin darker from the sun, but her spirit, though bruised, had not broken. Her twins were with her parents, who now lived in a modest flat paid for by a friend of Barrister Mabel. Mama Rose visited every weekend, bringing plantain chips and baby updates. They never spoke about the trial, only the babies, and what tomorrow could still hold. Tamuno had been charged with attempted murder, fraud, and perjury. But because the doctor confessed everything, and her act was seen as one of mental duress and self-defense, her sentence was reduced. She would serve 1 year and be released on parole. Meanwhile, across town, Chief Osaro stood alone in his once glorious mansion. His name was Mud. Investors pulled out, contracts collapsed. His image as a polished philanthropist was destroyed. The humiliation was public and the shame was private. Yet in the middle of his ruin, a new light emerged. Madame Onome, after weeks of silence, walked into his home with a hospital report in hand. He looked at it, then looked at her. "You're..." She nodded. "Yes. 3 months. Naturally." Osaro dropped into the nearest chair and wept not from joy alone, but from the weight of everything he had lost and failed to appreciate. They sat in silence for a while. Then Onome spoke. We need to do better. For this child, for ourselves. No more secrets. Osaru nodded. I swear. In the small court of public opinion, Tamuno remained both villain and victim. Some called her a liar. Others, a survivor. But those who knew really knew understood the layers. She had tried to outrun poverty with a dangerous shortcut. She had outwitted the rich, but paid with her dignity and freedom. She had lied to protect the truth she couldn't afford to say. And yet she had done it all for two little boys who now carried her name and future in their veins. As the sun set over Port Harcourt's skyline, Mama Rose sat under the mango tree outside their flat, holding one twin, while Papa Friday hummed an old hymn and cradled the other. A neighbor walked past and whispered, "Na Tamuno Pekin be that? Aya, that girl suffero." Mama Rose smiled faintly, kissed her grandson's forehead, and replied, "She did. But sometimes, suffering births strength." Moral lessons. Desperation can push the best of us into dark corners, but truth, even buried, always fights to be seen. The system can be manipulated, but justice, though slow, eventually balances the scale. Real power is not in money or lies, but in taking responsibility and choosing integrity, even after failure. No child should have to inherit the consequences of their parents' secrets. Redemption may come late, but it is never too late to choose a better path.